Hey, how's it going? Welcome back to Tool Show with me, Master Dan, the Journeyman shooter. And it's a beautiful day here. I'm along the Elbow River at one of my city's oldest rock quarries. And Calgary's been kind of historically known as one of the sandstone cities is what it's been called, I guess. You can even watch some of my other videos where I did basically a little investigative work on where the sandstone came from that built downtown. And this is it here, along the banks of this river here, the Elbow River. You can see there's lots of sandstone deposits that are kind of naturally just popping out here, and it's a beautiful place to come. The river's flowing nice and smoothly, and Calgary is a beautiful place to visit, I guess. But now one of the things about that is this is one of our Man of the Week segments, and I figured why not come down to the rock quarry to talk about our Man of the Week. Now, our Man of the Week actually has a lot of history with our city in Calgary here, and his actually position was a linebacker with the Calgary Stampeders for a little while, and he was an amazing football player, an amazing athlete, a genius in life, and basically teaching his own way of life, I guess. But at the time, nobody really recognized that, and that's happened a lot through this city where we've got rid of some talented people because they just weren't recognized, I guess. But now this guy, he became one of the biggest action stars in the world. He's the biggest athlete that you can talk about, especially bodybuilding wise. This guy is massive. Well, he's not the biggest bodybuilder in the world, but he's still a giant, and he's a famous wrestler, and I bet you can probably guess who I'm talking about already. But now the Calgary Stampeders decided to cut this guy. Now, can you imagine if you're going to be one of the biggest stars in the world to get cut from a football team in the Canadian Football League? Now, who do you think I'm talking about? The Rock. That's right, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. He is basically one of the biggest stars in entertainment today. He's a massive action star. He's just a marketing genius with Under Armour and all of his other stuff, not to give away any names or anything like that, but the guy is just a genius, and he does great work. And now one of the things with the poor Rock is he actually got cut from the Calgary Stampeders in I think it was the 90s, and his family has a lot of lineage back to Canada as well, because his dad is from the east coast of Canada. He was born in the east coast, moved to Toronto to start a wrestling career, and then he became a wrestler. His grandfather was a wrestler as well, so that kind of got him going into it. But now The Rock, he came to Calgary after he played in university, and he decided he wanted to play in the NFL, but something kind of fell through there, so he ended up coming into Canada like a lot of players do. And Canada's a great place to show off your talents and get to the NFL again, or if you're in the NFL and you have a drug problem and you get kicked out of the NFL, they all come down to Canada for us. So it's great. Ricky Williams, an awesome player. It's interesting character, but yeah, awesome player, and he came to Toronto, and it was interesting there as well. But to get off that subject, there was The Rock. He came to Calgary, wanted to play football, wanted to make a future for himself as a football star, but the problem is he just didn't stand out in the crowd here for some reason. He was a big guy, and I know some of the pictures from the olden days, he dressed kind of crazy. You can see some of those fanny pack pictures and the curly hair, and he's an interesting guy, but he came out of that and came to Calgary, decided he wanted to play football here, and Calgary didn't really receive him very well. They kind of just told him to go, basically. He didn't even make the actual team. He was on the practice squad, and basically before the season even really got going, he got an offer to become a wrestler, to go practice his wrestling, and he ended up going and taking that instead, which is awesome, because can you imagine where he would have been if he didn't turn down that wrestling offer and didn't leave the Stampeders and go back? But the coach, they didn't fight him. They just said, yeah, go. So, which is interesting, because could you imagine what Calgary would have been with The Rock here all this time? But that's all right, because it motivated him to something better, and that's what life is. You got to be motivated, or you're just going to kind of sit around and waste what you got. So that's one of the big lessons from The Rock, and why he is our Man of the Week is because he's overcome so much. He's a marketing genius. He's got positive outlooks on everything. He swears a fair bit in some of his stuff online, but other than that, he's a really great guy, and I don't mind him swearing. That's his own personal thing. His movies are awesome. He always tries to find a great role that fits his style, and man, the guy's a great actor too. He's showing from his wrestling. I remember when I was a kid, like when he first entered in the WWF at the time, but now the WWE, not to give away any names of wildlife federations or wrestling entertainment, but when he entered that, he had a little action figure, and all of the wrestlers had action figures. And I remember growing up, my buddy, he had every action figure you can name, like the Andre the Giants, the Hulk Hogan's, Macho Man's, everybody. He had all the old action figures, and him and his brothers still probably have them, but we all got into the like wrestling action figures thing, so we'd all mess around with them. And I remember I got the Rock. It was the Rocky Maivia, and it was his first edition, like the little, like, it was a really cool little action figure, and he was like the Rock as the young young first edition, basically. And I remember like storing it, and I kept it at my dad's place, and it was with all my toys, which I had a great collection of toys and stuff. And my dad ended up selling it for a couple bucks at an auction, and now it's probably worth tons of money because The Rock, look how famous he is. And it was an original first edition, and it's not one of the copy ones that came out later, so it would have been worth a lot, but somebody else has probably, I don't know, broken it already anyways. And it's just like my Tyronn Lue basketball, but I'll get into that later. That one is a good one. My dad sold that for 20 bucks, and it had the youngest coach to win an NBA championship with LeBron James's team. He signed the ball when he played for the Lakers with Kobe and Shaq, and my dad didn't know who signed it, and he sold it for 20 bucks before Tyronn Lue got to be somebody. But I'm getting off subject with my man of the week subject here with The Rock, and how he's a great guy, and you should kind of, if you want to get ahead and you want to try to get farther in life, you should try to follow him. Basically, he does a lot of good stuff. He tries his hardest to teach you positive lessons about the world, and he's a great guy. He's a solid dude, I guess. But other than that, that's all I really wanted to talk about. Came to the rock quarry. See, there's a big cut of rock over there, and that's why I love coming down here, is you can see all where they cut out the actual city stones so they could build up the actual towers, because there was a massive fire, and like you can watch my other video about it, there was a massive fire that burned down most of the city back in the 1800s, and after that the city built in a rule where everything had to be built from sandstone, basically, if it wanted to be over a couple stories, because the wood construction was what burned down the whole city, so they made it come out of sandstone. So all of the sandstone came from along this river. They'd cut off all the quarry stuff, throw it down the river basically, or blow it up and fall it down onto the river here, and they'd have donkeys that would walk down the river in the wintertime on the ice, and they'd drag those rocks all the way down to the center of the city, and then from there they built the city up basically. So that's the story of most of our downtown. But other than that, I didn't want to get into too much history. I was talking about The Rock and how he's a cool dude, and how he's a great actor, and how if he needs a bodyguard, I'm always here. I know he's probably like 10 times the size of me, but I could try my best to hold him back from beating the life out of anybody that's bothering him. So I could try to talk sense into him, I guess, if he gets enraged, because I'm a good talker and a decent guy. So if you need somebody that can kind of just stand there and, I don't know, tell people to back up, that's that's all I'm good for, I guess. But or if you need somebody that's good at acting, I can just fit into any background scene. If you guys need anything, I got nothing better to do, so why not pick me up, put me into the background of one of your things, and then I'll get signed to $1 million contract just by being there. So other than that, I just wanted to say hey to Rock, because he's our man of the week, and thank you so much for all you've done for the men out there, and women, because you've done a lot for women as well. You've just, I don't know, it's a great thing. You gotta watch some of the stuff he's done, and some of his movies are awesome. He's got a lot of great stuff and positive roles that kind of get you more positive and motivated out there, and that's what the world needs. So more positivity and motivation are never a bad thing. And so for Tool Show, I'm Master Dan, the Journeyman shooter. Get out there and check out your local rock quarries, because there's always some cool stuff. You might find some cool fossils and stuff built in there, especially with sandstone. That's where a lot of it is. You can see all the shale and stuff that's been falling off there, so there could be stuff in there all over the place, and it's a great thing to check out. So check out your local rock quarries, check out The Rock on TV and in wrestling and all the other cool stuff that he does, and thank him for being our man of the week. So for Tool Show, and that's the other thing that I wanted to do, is on behalf of Calgary, I wanted to apologize to The Rock, because nobody from the city has actually really apologized to The Rock for cutting him from our football team. We really should have been begging him, if we would have known who he was or actually noticed his talent, basically, to stay, because our city needs more positivity and more good things to happen. And especially look at where he's gone. He's there's not many other like great Calgarians. Well, there's Doug Flutie, I guess, and Doug Flutie did some good stuff for the Stampeders and went on, but The Rock is arguably much bigger than Doug Flutie. So I'd like to just say that to The Rock is, yeah, sorry from the city of Calgary. We've nobody's really apologized to you. I've never really actually seen any articles where people have said we're sorry for letting you go, or we're sorry for being bumholes back in the olden days. But, and pardon my French with the bum word there, but it's just I'm Canadian, so I speak French and English, and a little bit of Spanish and German, and some Russian and Ukrainian and Polish, and a whole bunch of different stuff. I've been learning online Chinese, Mandarin Chinese, yeah, a whole bunch of different things. So if you guys want to try to talk to me or teach me some new languages, I'm always interested in learning new stuff, and that's what all great entrepreneurs do. They don't give up, and they learn new things, just like The Rock. And look he's sponsored by different athletic companies, video games, movies, sports drinks, the the iPhone. Apple sponsors The Rock. It's like, the guy is a genius. So if you can market yourself like that, because that's what a lot of the thing is sports athletes and even entertainment. You're a marketer. You're a brand in yourself. So you have to have some kind of thing that sets you apart. And that's like me. I'm Shooter. I got a cool nickname, and I've also been a master electrician for almost the majority of my life. I'm going to be by the time I get to the time this show takes off. So why not? Just sign me up. And I know there's lots of rich people watching, and hopefully good people that can advance our career here and make me the next Rock, so I can change the world and help the city and get jacked on. Yeah, that's it. I'm just gonna go work out all the time. No, I'm just kidding. I got bigger and better things to do than to work out all the time. But that's it. So for Tool Show, Master Dan, the Journeyman, Shooter. Get out there and have a great day.